Kenya's coastline stretches for over 450 kilometers of the Indian Ocean, consisting of beautiful white sandy beaches meeting Somalia in the north and Tanzania in the south. This gem is facing one of the worst threats in the world as a result of the climate change. Residents living in this ancient fishing town of Kipini in the county of Tana River have first-hand accounts of how the sea is affecting their livelihoods. The shoreline is being washed away a little at a time.
Bahari ilikuja ikabadilika ghafla. Ilipobadilika ghafla ikaanza kukula polepole, sasa inakuja huku inakula, inakuja huku inakula mpaka imefikia mahali kwenye iko sasa. Na bado inakula.
Sasa hii mahali kumevunjika. Naweza sema ni kama mita 700 au 500, 600 tuseme. 600 mita mpaka pale imevunjika kutoka baharini.
A number of hotels along the beaches have been swallowed whole by the ocean, crumbling down one at a time due to the rising sea levels which is eating away the coastline.
Kuanzia miaka kama 5 sasa hivi tunahangaika sana. Maji imekula. Hapo mbele kulikuwa na Kawasaki, kulikuwa na hiyo hewa tua, alafu ndo sisi hapo, lakini imebomolewa. Kama hapo nyumbani imebomolewa kama eka 4. Na mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa nimejenga nyumba nzuri, lakini ilikuja ikapigwa kinyume hivi kaanguka nyumba kama 300. Minazi imeenda kama 200. Sasa tumeathirika, tumebaki tu tuko hivi, lakini hapa mahali kwenye tuko tayari hapa. Hili kwa ni mesi hii by the way. Huko chini kulikuwa kuna mahoteli, hizi zote ilikuwa ni hoteli hizi. Lakini maji zilichukua. Hata mikasoro na mingine ndio hii unakuta imeanguka. Hizi mawe zote unakuta hapa, hizi ni manyumba zilizokuwa zimejengwa.
Roberto Macri, an Italian investor, first came to Kipini in 1989. He says he was invited by an Arab friend who lived in Kipini, but tragedy struck when their boat capsized during an expedition in River Tana, killing his wife. In 1992, he went back to Kipini and bought a piece of land just next to the ocean and decided to put up a hotel in remembrance of his late wife. He invested 60 million shillings and became one of the players in the hotel industry, promoting Kipini as a tourist destination.
Unfortunately, 4 or 5 years ago, the ocean started to change the stream, and he has eaten like a scoop from the down, and slowly, all the bungalow been falling down without no possibility of recovery almost anything.
Kipini mahali hoteli ilijengwa juu ya mchanga kama vile mnavyoona. Hakukuwa na mwamba wa jiwe. Sasa maji yakija yakigusa mchanga yanasababisha mmonyoko wa ardhi. Kwa hivyo hizo nyumba zikaanza kuanza mwaka wa 2014. Nyumba ya kwanza ikaanguka. Mwaka wa 2015 nyumba 2 zikaanguka. Zimeanguka moja mpaka mwaka wa 2019. Ile nyumba iliyokuwa ya gorofa ndio iliyokuwa ya mwisho kuanguka.
In the entire Kipini East Ward, which is the lowermost part of Tana, we have seen the worst manifestation of this. I mean, if you leave Kipini town towards Ozi, you would see a lot of what we call the sea water intrusion into farmlands. So when during the high tides, and because of the low levels of the water within the river, you have the sea water moving nearly 30 kilometers inland, basically into individual community farms.
They are now vulnerable to the effects of climate change. The rising sea levels coupled with strong winds and heavy tides are eroding shorelines and damaging property.
In those 40 whatever years, he has changed a lot in the wind, in the temperature, and now unfortunately I realized even on the sea. During the day between 11 until 3-4 o'clock is very hot, then it's coming down. In the evening it's fresh, which has never happened before. So definitely there are some changes guaranteed.
Living in fear is the order of the day, afraid of displacement and even losing their homes.
Kijijini kumebaki mita za kuhesabu. Kama nyinyi mwenyewe mlivyoona, kumebaki ni chini ya mita 50 maji yaweze kufika kwa kijiji. Kwa hivyo sio long term sahi, ni very soon mtaanza kusikia miracle za Kipini, watu wanabebwa na bahari.
Wenye wako kwenye beaches wote karibu vijiji 15 zimeathirika. Wenye wako na mashamba hizi beach plot wote wameathirika. Hata hao walioko juu pia wana wasiwasi, maana akisha kuvunja huu mlima anaingia town. Yakibomoa tu huu mlima wenye tunauona hapa direct yako town. Na akiingia town sasa ndio kutakuwa kumeharibika kabisa. Tunaomba Mungu Kipini itapotea kama yatafika huko.
Residents have actually reported two worrying impacts. One is a lot of the waters, I mean most boreholes in Kipini, particularly those that are very close. I mean Kipini is a town, it's close to the ocean, but then very fresh water was found within. So the boreholes were basically providing fresh water. But residents have now reported that most of the boreholes have been turned saline. And worst still is now the new report that they are indicating is that those that are constructing their buildings not very far from where their residents are supposed to be, they cannot do the kind of foundations that are expected to support the buildings, because as soon as they do the foundations, then you see the deeper you go, then you find the water, and it's all saline. So this is actually worrying, and I think I would say that at this point in time we need to have a lot better understanding of what the future holds for a town with higher populations like Kipini.
Some years back, the people of Kipini used to live in Ungwana Bay, a land opposite Kipini but only separated by the waters of River Tana and the ocean. This is the point where River Tana meets the sea. The locals say the rising Indian Ocean waters drove them out of their homes to Kipini.
Maji yakafurika, yakaziba kabisa hicho kisiwa. Sasa ndio watu wakagura huko, wakaja wakaanzisha Kipini.
But now it also seems Kipini isn't safe either, and they will have to move again.
Kuanzia mwezi wa 4, sasa kuna athari kubwa ya kwamba kusi ikianza, hii season hii pengine itagusa kidogo. Maji yatavuja pale. Maji yatavuja, na kuna nyumba ambazo unaona kama lile bati tunaona, hiyo ni nyumba iko karibu. Kwa hivyo mwaka huu mwezi wa 4, ikiwa hakuna chochote kimefanyika, maji lazima yatafika kwenye ile nyumba ya kwanza, na yakifika pale yameingia mjini. Ni hatari kubwa sana, watu wanaweza kuathirika wengi sana, kwa sababu ni kijiji kikubwa. Sasa ni mtaa mmoja ambao sasa uko karibu na bahari, na watu wanajenga kwa sababu watu wanazidi kuwa wengi, lakini maji yakivuja yanaweza kuleta athari kubwa sana kabisa. Watu wengi wanaweza poteza maisha.
Even if you move towards the river, you would find that there are areas which are up to about -5 meters below the sea level, so which means the sea has an opportunity still to occupy larger parts of Kipini. So there's a lot of risk, really, even as you move towards Ozi, the sides of Klelengwani. So nobody should sit pretty. We need to believe in the science that we are being told. We need to take seriously the warnings that are coming through. And it's time for our scientists to be able to then look at how that global impact would play locally.
The communities living here depend on fishing and agriculture to sustain their livelihoods, mostly using water from River Tana for irrigation. But fishermen are struggling. The declining fish stocks have affected their daily income and the entire fish value chain. Traders, especially women, come here for the daily catch, at least to eke a living, but it's too little to meet their demand. This has been attributed to the increased destruction of fish habitat by the strong waves, which can no longer be sustained by the reef, sitting more than a kilometer away from the shoreline. Human activities, such as overharvesting of mangroves and destruction of corals, have also affected this natural barrier.
The worst of it is now that the water continues to rise, and the winds, the strong winds particularly, that have resulted as that have come as a result of now the removal of the mangroves that were actually protecting that ocean line, have actually made the situation worse now.
Destruction they've done with the forest is the cause of it. So somehow we have to blame ourselves for what is happening. Now they are promoting to make new trees, millions of trees, whatever. Maybe they could have thought before to reach this point.
According to scientists from the Kenya Marine Fisheries and Research Institute, 42% of Kenya's landmass lies in the ocean. One of the places with the clearest signs of coastal erosion is the iconic Fort Jesus in Mombasa, built by the Portuguese between 1593 and 1596. The military fortification, which is a World Heritage Site, is under threat of disappearing into the Indian Ocean waters. The Kenya National Museum says the fort was on the verge of collapsing due to the rising sea levels, but quick action saved it, at least for now.
It has eroded to the point where now the high water mark for Indian Ocean is at the base, at the foundation of the fort. And as a result of that, cracks have started emerging on the fort.
In 2018, construction of a seawall kicked off to reinforce the foundation of the fort. 200 blocks weighing 40 tons each were installed to secure the site.
This is a very good example of how climate change is affecting the world. When you imagine 500 years ago where we are, we would have been on a higher level water, level land. But now we are at the base of the ocean. So this problem is not only affecting Fort Jesus, it's affecting Vasco da Gama Pillar in Malindi, it's affecting the Jumba la Mtwana site, it's affecting Lamu, it's affecting all coastal sites. And if something is not done, if no concerted effort is done, we may wish this heritage away in a few years to come. If 500 years, the sea has eroded almost 2 acres of land in front of Fort Jesus, I don't know in the next 500 years how much it will erode the rest of the town.
In 2016, the first Global Integrated Marine Assessment report also revealed that 70% of the planet's surface is covered by water and that the average depth is 4,000 meters. The oceans have suffered the brunt of global warming and are now fighting back. The National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, a scientific and regulatory agency in the United States, shows that globally the sea level has risen by an average of 24 centimeters since 1880. In 2021, global sea level set a new record high of more than 3.8 inches. As global temperatures continue to warm, additional sea level rise is inevitable. Communities along the coast, such as those in Kipini, are now calling upon the government's intervention to explore ways to save their village from disappearing into the ocean. Residents are hopeful that one day the government will construct a seawall to protect them from the vagaries of climate change, which is posing a threat to lives and livelihoods in Kipini.
Usipojenga ufa, utajenga ukuta. Ni muhimu kwa serikali sasa kuangazia jambo hili. Na cha muhimu zaidi tunacholilia ni kwamba kujengwe ukuta, lakini pia kutafuta wataalam tuangalie miundombinu nyingine ya kuweza kujikinga na janga hili. Lau litaachwa hivi bila kutuliwa maanani, basi hatari kubwa itatokea kwa muda wa miaka 2 na itakuwa ni historia. Leo kama mwandishi uko hapa, Mungu akikuweka hai na uzima utakuja kuniambia baadaye. Tutaandika historia tukiwa hapa sisi.
I don't want to sound like a prophet of doom, but these are realities. I mean, if you go to places like Lamu and you come all the way to Kipini, you would understand that that might be a very serious reality. Because even in Lamu where they have done seawalls, I mean, you find levels rising all the way above, those walls. So this is something that can happen. We need, as a country, to be very, very serious.
People like Roberto are also hopeful that they can go back to Kipini to invest in the hospitality industry.
Even now, after so many years, there are still people calling me about, asking about Kipini. It is one of the most beautiful places in Kenya because basically it's got everything on its own there, from the sea, from the river, from the forest, from the animals, from the island, visiting Lamu only in one place. So it's a destination which could be just fantastic, a new opening on the Kenya coast.
There is also need for public awareness to help coastal communities build resilience to climate change. Kevin Mutai, NTV, in the county of Tana River.